All right, and we're live. Just going to message. We're going to do an extra stream this week. Let me see here. Had a request to do some work on grammar tonight. I avoided the topic of grammar for a long time because it's kind of like somebody else said, it's a little bit of a controversial subject. But I think I'm of the opinion now that if you can get your head wrapped around the grammar, it'll actually fast track your learning. Just going to send this live to a friend here that messaged me on Facebook. Yeah, there we go. All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in. We're going to just hang out for a minute, let the stream warm up. Share this on all my typical channels. It takes a minute to do all that kind of stuff, so I'm just going to share this right now. But if you missed the stream tonight or you don't have time to hang out, this is going to be on my YouTube channel. I've got I've got a picture of the streaming setup here. It's ridiculous. what I need to do to stream on multiple platforms. It's really quite the journey. This is what we're going to look at tonight. Though maybe not in this format. We can review this chart. This is a chart by another learner's, one of my mentors. His name is Ben Godden. And it's terrifying to look at to start. But what I want to do tonight is we're going to look at the different types. Maybe we'll do a little bit of review on verbs and on some of the terminology, I guess, if that's helpful. And again, if it, because I think if you can wrap your head around this, this will help fast track your language journey. If you feel like you're struggling understanding the right endings to use when or how to, if you feel like you're at an intermediate or like a beginner level or wanting to get past a beginner level but not quite sure how to advance your language and you're feeling like a little bit stuck, this will probably be good for you because, and we'll go slow. We're not going to like fly through this. We're just going to start introducing some concepts. And our goal here is to be able to understand this chart. This chart actually comes from Ben. Ben built this off of, plug in my pencil here. Ben built this off of this book here, Cree Language of the Plains, from Gene Okimasis. So this book here, if you, the way Ben put it is, if you work all the way through this book, kind of front to back. Oh, let me get rid of some of these extra windows we don't need here. Sorry, what a mess. If you work through this book front to back, see if I can do this. There we go. You will understand this chart, is what Ben implied. Let me get rid of some of these extra windows. Just coming off the end of my workday, I was planning on streaming tomorrow. So I got a bunch of extra stuff going on with Keanu platform. Let me get cleaned up here. Yeah, there we go. So this whole chart, again, it seems intimidating, but we're going to get into it a little bit. We're going to talk about, actually, let's just start with the verb types. This will be a review. You might know this already. But we'll start with verb types real quick. We get back to the beginning. Animacy and verbs. So you may or may not be aware, in Nihiwin, Plains Cree dialect, and the other dialects as well, and probably, I think Anishinaabemowin's the same, actually. I think, yeah, they have animacy in Anishinaabemowin. We have this concept known as animacy. I don't know if that's the best word for it. I'm not really one, I don't know, I don't have a better word, so I guess I shouldn't say anything. But the idea being that there's this one group of things, when we talk about something, an object in Nihiwin, it's either something that is, in the case of anything on this side, what this really means is that this is, when we talk about it, we use a wa. We use, let me do this in red. Let's do this. We use a wa. We use a wa to talk about the ones on this side. And the ones on the other side, these ones, we use uma to talk about the ones on the other side. That's really the difference. One set is awa and one set is uma. Whether we call them animate or living or whatever we call them doesn't matter. But the ones on this side are awa and the ones on this side are uma. That's sort of what we need to know. And then the idea of transitivity, destiny. Sorry, I've got a million things going on here, so I will try and keep up with comments and actually... just try and keep an eye on my comments. Destiny asks, what's your language websites you use? What do I use for language websites? Tisqua. Let me pull up a document that I didn't have prepared for tonight. Tisqua. The main one, I actually maintain my own site called kiano.net. Tisqua. There's a couple here. Kiano.net, that's my site. The dictionary, if you're doing word search, bengodden.com, and then Ituewina is the, you can just search for this one, Plains Cree Dictionary online, and you can find that. These are the main ones that I use, and then YouTube, obviously. Yeah. All right, so back to our review. So because we're going to be talking about verbs, we need to understand animacy, which just means whether something is awa or something is uma, one or the other, okay? And then the other thing we need to understand is transitivity, whether something is transitive or not. The way I think of this is whether it involves another object or another person, whether there's like a transfer. So the difference between saying like I see and I see something. In English, the word see doesn't change, whether it's transitive or not. So we would include the something. I see my phone. I see my computer. Or just I see. In Nehioiwan, these are different words. They're different verbs. We use a different verb for this than we do for this because in this case, something else is involved, right? Whether that's something or that's someone. And in this one, there's nothing else involved. I eat, I'm just very unspecific. I am eating, right? But if I'm eating soup, that's very specific. So then there's a different word, okay? So I'll just erase this because and actually, I remember when I went back and watched this video, I'm like, I didn't do a really good job of setting that up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw these out a little bit more properly so they're a little bit more clear. So just bear with me for a second. And then we have animate and inanimate. Okay. And then we have transitive okay? And then we have intransitive. So those are the things that we just covered. We just covered animacy, which is either like sort of awa or uma, and then transitive, whether the thing that we're doing involves something or doesn't involve something, or it does involve something. Because we need to understand these, because these are going to create a cross section of the different verb types in Plains Cree and in Nihiuiwan. Okay. And so we're going to start over here in this bottom corner. So in all of these cases, we are dealing with a verb. So they all start with all of the different verb types. When you see the notation in the books or whatever, they start with this V. But in this particular case, because it's inanimate and it's intransitive, okay, they call this one a VII. You have to pardon my messy writing. Let me see if I can clean that up. I'll try and do this. If I rest my hand on there, VII, okay? It's a verb, it's intransitive and inanimate, VII. And these typically are verbs, they're intransitive and they're inanimate, so it's typically words where nobody's involved. These are words, you probably know some of these, like miwa sin is this type of verb. Gisagao, which can be a noun too, but gisagao, or let me think of another one here. Tahgayao, like if it's cold out. That falls into this. There's kind of like nobody involved. Lots of the colors fall in this category. But then if we step into the intransitive on the animate side, so if we move from here to here, we're sort of now, because it's in the animate category, that means that there's somebody involved. Okay, so how would I mark that? I'm going to say like there's, I think they mark that with like a 0. There's like nobody involved. Okay, I'm guessing at this now. So this one is still a verb. Okay, but now it's animate, but it's still intransitive. So they call that a VAI, a verb. It involves like an animate person or a thing. Okay, and then, but it's still intransitive. That just means that there's like a person. Okay, so there's just like one person, but there's no transfer, there's no interaction, right? They call that a VAI. An example of this would be like atoskeo, that one works. Or nimitsun, I eat. Okay. Then if we get to this one here, back to the inanimate in the transitive category, all right, this now changes, and this is still a verb, okay, but now it's transitive, and the thing that is being acted upon, or the thing that is the subject of the transitivity, maybe you'd say, is inanimate, okay? So then they call that a VTI, all right? So we have, now we have, let me go back to my red pen. There's now one person involved, but now they're acting on something. How would you mark that? Actually, yeah, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this to something. I'm going to change this one to be someone. Okay? These mean, when I write these out, this is going to be something and this is going to be someone. This one here is someone and the action is on to something, if that makes sense. Okay, so now there's an interaction here between someone and something is what's happening there. That's what transitivity. I see it. Newapahtin. Okay. I hear it. Nipehtin. Right? So now let's go to the last category. This is the one that involves two animate things. And again, it's a verb. They all start with V, verb. It's transitive, but now it's going to be A for animate. The thing that we're acting on is now in that category of animate things. So this one is someone and someone else. Okay, so there's an interaction between somebody and somebody else in that somebody else being in the animate category. Mananto. Yeah. Bear with me if I miss your comments. Just throw them in there twice because I'm monitoring a bunch of stuff right here to make this stream work. So that's our 4 categories. We have the VII, which is just something like tahkayao, it is cold, or miwasin, it is good. Okay. Askitaguao, right? It is green. Then there's that VAI, which is the thing that's doing something is animate. So it could be a person. It could be like, there's a few things in the animate category that are like rocks, bannock, socks, right? The sun. So Pimoteo, right? That one travels or walks. And Pimpayu, that one travels. Pimihao. No, Pimpatao. Pimpatao, Pimihao. What's the difference between those? Pimpata is to run. Pimihao is to fly. Yeah, anyway, so those all fall into this category. And that's just talking about someone, just like a person, right? Then when we get into this VTI category, that's somebody interacting with something. Okay? That's that category of I see it. Because again, if you go back to English, if I say I see or I eat or I work, okay, the word doesn't change whether or not something else is involved. In English, the word stays the same. But in Nehioiwin, the word changes. We use a different word, whether we're over here or whether we're over here. The word for see in this context is different in Nehioiwin. Niwapin, niwapatin, or if it was someone, niwapmao. Okay, those are different words. So we need to understand that. And then we need to understand that depending on who we're talking about, there's a lot of different ways that you can say something. Okay. So we're going to get to the chart in a minute. Oh yeah, so I got some examples here. We're going to get to this chart in a minute. But the other thing that we need to understand that might be worth review. Hey, Cameron, danse. Nimosum. Danse gisenu. Is this, just drop a comment if you're in the TikTok or on one of the other channels, this is making sense so far. If you have questions about any of this, we're just doing some study tonight. I had somebody reach out and we're just working on some concepts in the language when it comes to self-study. So then the other thing, before we can get into talking about grammar, before we can talk about, because we're not going to just study this chart. I think what we'll do is we'll grab a story. We'll grab a story and we'll break it down. The different words we run into a story, who's involved, what is the interaction that's happening. But before we do that, let's talk about, I have another one here, verb direction, okay? By the way, these videos exist on, I've done these videos in the past on YouTube. This is sort of just like a study night. Yeah. So we just talked about this. We just talked about these 4 different verb categories. I want to run over, before we move any further, I want to talk about pronouns, okay? Because that's the other thing we sort of need to understand before we can start to do grammar. We need to understand the verbs are different depending on whether it's animate or inanimate, and they're also different based on whether there is what is known as transitivity or not, whether there's an interaction with something else or not. Those are going to be different verbs. Okay, so we understand there's actually 4 categories of verbs in Nehioiwin. There's those ones like miwa, sin, and then there's like that involves nobody. These involve nobody. They're just like tahkayao or gisanao or gisasteo. Those all fall in this category. They're not always weather terms. Sometimes they're colors, or sometimes it's a description of something, but just nobody's involved. Then there's these ones which involve one person, right? I atoskeo, that one works. Or nimitsun, I eat. But if I want to say I eat something, I use a different verb for that. I need to know that those are different verbs. Or if I eat soup or I eat bannock, I use different verbs for those. Those are good examples. So I eat, nimitsun. I eat soup, nimitsin, mitsemapoy. I eat bannock, nimuaupakoisikan. Those are different verbs, okay? Let's talk about personal pronouns. Again, drop a comment if you have any questions about any of this stuff. This is just sort of review or study. This is going on to a few different platforms, but also if you don't have time to stick around, that's fine too. This will be on my YouTube, probably Facebook too. But there are, how many are there? 7, maybe 8 pronouns in Nehiuewin. So if I'm talking about me, you'll see this marked as one singular. Singular meaning like there's just one of me. But these are important because we just need to know what they are. So me is going to be niya. In TH it'd be neither. In dialect it'd be nina. I think R and L you'd say nila and nira, I think. And then, what is this in Anishinaabe? Is it neen? I don't even know. I'm pretty sure Kia, like I say Kia in Niue, and in Inish, I think they say Keen. I think. Anyway, so for me, just me, this is Nia, okay? This might be review. We're going to get to grammar and conjugation in a minute. We're just doing review just to make sure everybody's with us here. For you, again, they refer to that, you're the second person. I'm the first person. That's why they use a one. You're the second person. So this is you, okay? And singular, just you, not anybody else. That's you. Kia, kina, kida, kila, kira, kira. I rolled my R. And then that other person, the third person, okay? Singular, just that one person. We, would you say we the, we na? Not that word. That's not what I said. Weela, weera, I guess. Just that one person. So that's first person, second person, third person, okay? There is another third person in the language. There's another third person, and there isn't that I know of specifically a pronoun, but it's important to be aware of that there's a third person, that third person singular, but then there's another third person, and they call this the obviate, and we'll come back to that, okay? But this is super important, especially when it comes to stories or because there's specific conjugations, there's specific grammar for this other person. And we're going to study some of this in a minute. Again, if you're just tuning in, we're going to get to the grammar. We're going to practice some conjugations. We're going to get into a story and look at how does all of this stuff we're talking about apply to a story, so we can read the story and understand what's going on, or when we hear a story, understand what's going on. We'll get there. We're getting there. I just don't want to rush it. So if you do have questions, or if you don't have time, this is being recorded. This will be on my YouTube. You can come back to it afterwards. There's this concept in Nehiuewin of us but not you, okay? So in English, if I said, we're going to the store, but I mean like you're coming with us, or I might mean like you're not coming with us. I'm telling you that we're going to the store, but not you, okay? And that is this concept of us, plural. This is typically how you'll see that. And it means us, but not you, okay? And this is nianan, or ninan, okay? Nianan, us, but not you. And you'll see it typically like this, all right? Then there's this concept of y'all, but not us. You'll see it like this, the two plural, second person plural. That's y'all, all y'all. And in Nihiuewin, that's kiwao, okay? And then if I'm talking about all of us, you'll see this as the 2-1 plural, or sometimes you'll see it as 1-2 plural. You'll see it either way, 2 plural or 1-2 plural. Oh, I'm writing under my face. 1-2 plural, you'll see that either way. And that's kiwao, okay? Kiwa, or sorry, Kiano, not Kiwa, Kiano, that's all of us. Kiano means like all of us. And then those ones over there, plural, that third person plural, that's wiawau, that's them, plural. All of them. Now there's this other concept in Nehioiwan. They call, in English, you might consider this like passive voice or something. And this isn't necessarily the right pronoun. I just put that in there. But there's this concept of just like, there's a position that's just like nobody in general, just somebody, but it's not specific. Unspecified. Sometimes they'll call this X actor. Sometimes they'll call this unspecified actor. And it's kind of, you can think of it as kind of like passive voice. You might be able to think of it as passive voice, but I don't know if that's entirely accurate. So I'm using that, don't quote me on that, but we generally call this X actor or unspecified actor. Okay, so here's a quick review. I grab my water. Make sure and spill it all over myself. So there's the first person, just me, that's Nia. You, Kia. That other person, Wea. That's the 1S, 2S, 3S. S just means singular. Okay, first person, second person, third person. Somebody might be like Awia, but just don't worry about that right now. But this is important, okay? Then us, but not you. That's the first person plural. That's Nianan. And then there's all of us, Kiano. And then there's all of y'all, Kiawao. Okay? And then there's those ones, them plural, Wiawao, those ones. And these parts you might already know, and I'm trying to introduce these because we're going to rely on these markers. I'm introducing these pronoun markers, positions, whatever you want to call them, just as like they're like an abbreviation, okay? Because once we get to the chart, if you want to use the chart for self-study, you'll once you understand what these are, it'll make the chart make sense, okay? Okay. Hey, thanks for that, Nina. I got called a great teacher. I'm not a teacher. I'm just a learner. I'm doing my best. You don't need to know this. I just think this is interesting. And I think, was it Eric Wolvengray, like wrote a whole dissertation on this, but there's this interesting order, the way verbs are structured. You don't need to know this. But what is important to know is that when it comes to, remember we talked about those verbs where there's two people involved, like not just someone and something, but like someone and someone else. Okay, that's this one over here, those VTAs. Okay. The reason this is important is because there are interactions between all of these. Actually, I'll come back to this. I'm looking for this slide. There are interactions between all of these positions. This is a little tiny bit exaggerated. We're going to walk through these in a minute, but this is the point we're getting to. And so that's why that chart is so scary, is because there's all of these. And so with those positions, let me back up a tiny bit. There are direct interactions where you see me, I see someone, I just see things in general. I see that other person, you see that other person, that person sees that other person, right? Those other people are seen, okay? This is what it's referred to as direct, okay? And then there's inverse. Then there's the inverse in those VTAs. We're talking about those VTAs specifically right now, okay? All right, then there's inverse. I see you. Now we can argue about whether or not that's direct or inverse. Doesn't matter. It still makes the chart make sense. So I see you. You are seen. I am seen. Okay, that one sees me. That one sees you. That other one sees me. That other one sees you. That other one sees that person. So there's interactions between all of these, right? Here's some examples. We're going to use some examples of this. You love me. Kisagihin. That's just you, not all of y'all. That's just you. You love me. Kisagihin. Okay. Hey, I got to do. I got a comment on Twitch. Network fighting me today. I'll pull it up on the next stream. Yeah, fine. The recording is available as well. So you love me, kisagihin, and your pronouns kind of at the beginning, kisagihin, but this is the part that means you to me. Okay. But the inverse of that, I love you, ke, your pronoun is still kind of at the beginning, ke, kisagitin. It's the itin part that says me to you. So the in meant you to me. Itin means me to you. And both of those have ke at the beginning. Kisagihin, you love me. Kisagitin, I love you. Okay. And then now, when it comes to me and somebody else, now my pronoun is in there. Nisagihao. Nisagihao. I love that one. Nisagihao nitanis. I love my daughter. Nisagihao niwigimagan. I love my partner. Okay. It's the ow part that means me to that person. Okay. But if I say that person loves me, ni still stays at the beginning. Nisagihik. That person loves me. Nisagihik nitanis. My daughter loves me. Nisagihik nukum. My nukum loves me. Okay. And then if we say that other person loves that other person, right? Sagiheo. John sagiheo ukosa. John loves his son. And the inverse of that, there's actually two ways you can say this. Sagihik. John sagihik ukosa. John's son loves John. It's the ik part that means this way. Or it can be ego, sagiego. It can be either of those. Oh, my picture's over the word. I'm sorry. Let me fix that. Haha. Do I need to back up? I'll back up. I'm trying to coordinate streams and pictures and things, and this whole streaming thing it's a thing. There, how about if I go over here, put my face off to the side? Let me back up. I will go over those one more time. Thank you for pointing that out, Standing Horse. Let me back up. Okay. So we talked about the directions. I'll just review these again real quick. All right. Kisage hin. Okay. You love me. Ki, that's you. The in means you to me. But I love you, which we technically are showing as the inverse. Ge, that's still you, but the itin, it means me to you. Kisage itin, I love you. Okay. I love that person. Nisage how. So ni, that's me. Ao means me to them. Nisage how. Nisage how ntanis. Nisage how nuokum. I love my grandma. But if I say nisage hik, ni, sage hik, now that's the inverse. Nisage hik nuokum. My grandma loves me. Nisage hik nuokum. And then that last one. Sagiheo, John, ukosa, John loves his son. The eo part on the end means that direction, John to his son. And this one can be ik or eko. So sagihik, John, ukosa, that means John's son loves John, or sagieko. You could say sagihigo. You'll probably hear it that way somewhere, but the way what they call it a glide. The way I'll probably hear that is sagiego. Sagiego. John ukosasa. John's son loves John. And it's that ik or eko that means that other one loves John, if that makes sense. All right. And then this is where we talked about that what they call that unspecified or that X actor. And that's like, it's not specific. So if I say this igowin, for me specifically, nisagihigoin just means I am loved. We're not really specifying who, but it still falls in that transitive chart. That's why we're talking about it. And so again, there's all of the pronouns are here. There's me, there's you, right? There's us but not you. There's y'all. There's all of us. There's all of them and that one. And then there's that other one. And there's technically another person, though I don't see or hear this. I've only ever really, I think, seen this in like literature. But anyway, and like we mentioned before, there are interactions between all of these positions when it comes to figuring out how the word works, how the verb works, okay? There's interactions between all of these. So that brings us to the chart. So we're not going to spend, what I'm going to do is I don't want to just like review the chart and be like, this is how you say this and this is how you say that. I think what would be more interesting from a study perspective is to use a story. And we do this a little bit when I do study, but I thought maybe we would go on, let's actually use my site, Bloomfield, and we'll pick this one here, Wisage Itzak and the Partridges, okay? And we'll pick this story, and what we'll do is we'll go through, every time we run into a verb in the story, we'll go find it, okay? Because I'm primarily interested in, hey, Tanse Darcy, I'm primarily interested in being able to tell a story. Like my purpose for studying, learning, right? I don't want to just know about the language. I want to be able to tell a story. I want to be able to tell about how, my day was or what I did last week or like hold a conversation. And so if you're in that place where you listen to a story and you're like, I think I know what's going on, but I don't quite understand all of it. Or if you're trying to produce language and sometimes you feel like you're mixing your words up or you're not quite saying things right. That's why we're focused on what's known as the grammar, because that's the part that's going to help us understand when I say something, which one of these forms of the word do I need to use? And it can be confusing. It's less confusing with the other verb types. And actually, the one thing I will do before we jump into the story is I will correlate, let me get back here. Tisqua. I think I need to find the button here, this one, okay? So we're going to correlate these different verb types with the spots on the chart so that things start to make sense. And I colored these specifically. Remember we talked about direct and inverse, and that's because this chart is set up for direct and inverse conjugation. So the direct are the blue boxes, they go this way. The inverse are the orange boxes, they go this way. That only affects that VTA verb type, which is the chart at the top. But if we look at the other types, we start with the VII. So that's the one that, and again, I'll write these in. This is just, oh, that's too big. The VII is the one that is just something, okay? And this one is someone. And this is someone is acting on something. And these ones are two groups of someone. Okay, just to help clarify that. So we're going to start with just the something group, the VIIs. That's going to exist right down here in this part of the chart, okay? And we'll get into how do we use these boxes, what do they mean? We're going to get to that. But I just want you to know those ones live right here in the bottom left. By the way, this chart is available if you Google Cree decoder ring, you will find this. Yeah, standing horse is confusing. I get it. I get it. So we're trying to minimize that if we can. If this doesn't work for you, I'm not, I don't want to force this on anybody. I'm only introducing this if it's helpful. I know the people, I believe if you get the grammar, it can unlock a lot of things. Like if you understand the grammar, right? If we move on to this one, this chart that means just somebody, like atoskeo, if you just understand these, or actually this set of boxes, there's 16 here. If you get those out of the way, then every time you learn a new verb, you get 16 words for free. Yeah. So a good example, mispun. That's a perfect example, okay? Perfect example. Mispun. So that sits right here, okay? And if you want to take mispun, there's generally two different types. They either end in N or they end in W when it comes to VAI. Mispun, miwasin, something like that, right? Let me, I want to pull up a fresh page. I wonder if I can do it here, if that would be legible. So mispun. But there's that N right there, okay? That's that N. If we want to say, if for some reason mispun, which is like it's snowing, is there any way you would ever say mispunwa? Like, could it snow plurally? I don't know if that's possible. But you could do that for miwasin. So let's use a different verb. Disqua. So let's say miwasin. But if for whatever reason there were more things that were good in that way, okay, you could say miwasinwa. Okay. So there's that those endings. Miwasin, miwasinwa. Okay. Or if you want to say it in what's called the conjunct, a miwasik, a miwasik. Sometimes that H will transfer in, sometimes it won't. Or in some contexts, you might say a miwasiniik. Okay. So again, these are things that we run into in a story that's like, what is that? Why is it there? So we're going to get into that. This one's maybe the easiest one because there's only a small number of them. But let's jump over. I just wanted to demonstrate really quick for the four verb types, those VAIs. We'll talk about those. That's like atoskeo would be an example of that. That's this set of boxes down here in the corner, the blue ones. And then the verbs that involve someone doing something, someone doing like I hear something, I see something, I know something, like nigskating. That's this set of boxes here. Okay. We'll get into those. And then the ones that involve two people or two animate things, that's these ones at the top, this whole set. So what we're going to do, I'm not going to drill through these. The way I learned these was literally drilling through them, okay? So nimitsun, kimitsun, mitsu, nimitsunan, kimitsuno, kimitsunawao, mitsuwak, mitsuyuwa, e mitsoyan, e mitsoyin, e mitsut, e mitsoyak, e mitsoyak, e mitsoyek, e mitschik, e mitsoyit. Right? And then these ones are in the future. We'll come back to those. These are imperatives. We'll worry about those later. But that's literally how I learned that. But what I actually want to do is instead of drilling, which is not fun, then there's these ones. Nigskating, kigskating, kigskatam, nigskatinan, kigskatino, kigskatinawaw. I don't want to do that. Instead, what I want to do, because I think it will be a little bit more interesting, is let's go through a story. Okay? And every time we run into a verb, let's go find it. Let's go find what it is. What is it? Who's involved? Who are we talking about? Okay? That's what I want to do tonight because I think it'll be more fun than doing drills, grammar drills. I want to do this specifically with a story. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Is there any questions on that so far? This is not a class. This is just like we're studying. So if you have a question, don't be shy. Just drop it in there somewhere. And I will 100% answer your question. We're going to go for another hour and 20 minutes. So there's lots of time tonight for questions, side quests, detours, distractions. Everything is allowed. So I'll start on the first one, and I know there's a couple of seconds lag on the stream, so wait for your questions to come in if there are any. We'll start with this first one. Ksenu sipueteo. Egua e piponiek. We've already run into what we were exactly just talking about, like 2 seconds ago, right? So if we look at sipueteo, we were already talking about gisenu. So we're talking about an old man. And in this case, I think it's saying the old man, okay? Sipueteo is specifically what you would call a VAI, okay? It's a verb, and we can find this. We'll just literally grab this word. Be like, how do I find that? Okay. I'll use the online dictionary from the U of A. Sipueteo, it's a VAI, okay? So that's one of those verbs that just involves one person. So let's go find it. And this one's easy because stories are typically in the third person. They're the third person form. So if we look at that word, sipueteo, we see that that W is right there. It's actually the W. That means it's that one. The W means that person, the part at the end. So the word is sipueteo. Okay? And it lives right there. And again, from there, there's a little kind of a rule there. When I change this to me or you, or any of the ni or gi forms, that E in sipueteo needs to become an A, a long A. So I wouldn't say nisipuetin, I would say nisipuetan. Nisipuetan. Okay? And the way that works is, let me grab a fresh page here. It works like this. Yeah, just checking for comments. So if I grab this and I look back at that chart, I know it's a VAI, I know it's right here, okay? And I'm going to grab, I can see right here that line, right here, there's that line and then the W, okay? What that means is everything in that line is all of that. And the W, let's use a nice bright yellow. That's the inflection right there. That's the part that means that person. So if I want to do this for me, I want to say I leaves. This one means roughly that one, I don't know, departs, leaves, I guess you'd say. Leaves. So how do I do this for me? I leave. Okay? How do I change that? So according to this, I take everything in that black spot, that black line, and I put it between ni and this N. And there's a rule here. We'll talk about that rule in a second. But let me get that wrote out, okay? So I need to make a ni, and I need that part, and then an N. And so everything that's that line here, everything in there, I can put in the middle. So let's just do that. Let's just do it for fun. Se, pue, de. That's what's in there. Incidentally, if you say sipuete, oh, I missed a T. If I say sipuete, what am I saying? I don't know if you'd say that to somebody. But if you say sipuete, you're saying like leave, right? That's the command form. They call that the imperative, sipuete. So the part that's in here is like the command, sipuete. But with these particular ones, again, we're in that VAI land, the verbs that only involve one person. There's a rule here, okay? For these verbs that end in an E in the command form, and the rule is marked on this chart. It's right here, that little D, go to the top. And that rule says that that long E needs to turn to a long A in those forms. Let's go back and have a look at that. So it's definitely here and here and there and there and there. So in these 5 forms, there's that rule. Whenever we run into that E, if we want to plug that word in there, then we need to do that little sound change, okay? That E sound is going to turn into a long E, long A. That was the rule. So now that becomes, it started out as sipuiteo, that one leaves, but I wanted to do it for me. And if we recall, right, me is that one S, me. Then I'm going to change that to nisipuitan, nisipuitan, that's me. So how do we say that for you? We can say, same thing, we're going to find ke. Excuse me, you can literally do the exact same thing. I'm going to cheat and duplicate that. Sipuitan, ke sipuitan, that's you. And then we know sipuiteo, that's that one. Okay. I'm not going to go through all of them because that would be drilling, right? You can figure that out. Sipuitanan, ke sipuitano, ke sipuitanawao, sipuiteoak, or these ones, isipuitia, isipuitit. Let's keep going. Let's go find the next verb. Every time we run into a verb, we're going to do this. We're going to stop and go find it. Wesley says, hello, Aaron. I'm Cree from Pigeon Lake. I didn't know you do streams like this. I was wondering if you had a resource you can recommend to understand grammatical terms. We just went over the grammatical terms at the beginning of the stream. This stream will be available on my YouTube channel. It's being you're on my YouTube channel now, so you have it. So the recording of this will be available after the stream. You can go back to the beginning, and we talk about all these grammatical terms. We started with this one here. We went through what are the different what do these mean, and then on the other one we went through the pronouns. What do all of these mean? The one, the 2s, all of these. And let me just fast forward. Zip, 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 zip. These ones. Sorry. Further. All of these positions. And what those mean. And the transitivity and all that. So now we're into the chart. So if you missed that part in the beginning, you can go back and watch the recording afterwards. Let's do some more in our story here. So, so we know we're talking about the old man. The old man left. Egua e peponiek. Well, let's look at this one for a minute, okay? Because this confused me for a long time, okay? And this is super common in stories in the language. And I'm going to explain how I understand this. And I hope this isn't too confusing. I will explain it the best way I know how. So we're going to get rid of all this. Let's start with looking up piepun. I know what it is, but we'll look it up. It's a VII because it doesn't involve, it can technically be this one too, right? An inanimate noun, like a year, like pipun, one winter or something. But in this context, it's actually a verb. It is winter, okay? And it's that VII. It's that type of verb that doesn't involve anybody. It's just an action, something's happening, okay? Pipun. So that means when we go to our chart, it's going to fall under this one here. And we can identify it where it lives right away because of that N. Pipun, that ending. This one here. But what's interesting about it is it's not this form, and it's not this form, and it's not this form. It's this one. This form is actually, it's got that little mark, that 0 with the mark. That's technically what they call, there's a word for that, they call it the obviate. It's the same as John Okosa, that other person, but it's not really a person. It's actually a position, okay? Let me go back to that chart for a second. This position right here, that other person, or technically in this case, even though it's not transitive, it's like something in that position relative to a person. And that's actually the answer as to why we use epiponic, whoops, not that, I want my highlighter, epiponic and not epipok. Okay? Because if you just put that word in the conjunct, let's grab that for a second. The word is epiponic. So the question is, well, why did we say epiponic instead of epipok? Why the obviate? And the way this was explained to me was, if you said epipok, you would be saying it's winter. I think there's a, yeah, epipok. If you said epipok, you'd be saying it is wintertime. Okay? Or it's like, I mean, you could say like as it is winter or something like that. But if you say epiponiik, what you are saying is it is winter that is being experienced by somebody. The difference between these. This one means it is winter. This one means that somebody is experiencing winter. Okay? That's the way that was explained to me. That's the best explanation I've heard so far. Nina says, conjunct present now epiponic when it is winter. And when, as or when, yeah. And so in this particular case, in the story, we've already established Giseanu. So we already have a third person. Let me get my disqua. I'm going to get my screen brush going here, because I really like having this as a tool. I think I need to close something in order for this to work. I can quit Dropbox. And then do I get my screen brush? I want my screen brush. Then I can draw on my screen. Yeah, there it is. Show, ghost mode, there. So this here is our third person singular, right? Giseanu. So if you have a context in which there is a person, a VAI, like a person, inanimate something, and then you have another something that includes either another person or another something like descriptive, like winter. It is wintertime. Then you use the obviate because it's describing that Giseanu is experiencing whatever that is. So the old man left and it was wintertime, but it was wintertime as experienced by the old man. Hold on, I got my puzzle. Apparently TikTok has detected inactivity in my live. So that's why we do that, and we found both of these. Let's move on to the next one. Eutagosinic. So we see that again. Eutagosinic. Otagosi. Well, let's just go look that up. You can grab this whole thing, which is really cool with Itoeuna, the online Cree dictionary. If you grab that whole thing and drop it in there, it can find that word. The old dictionary never used to be able to do that, but this one can. Okay, and it comes from Otagsin. Okay, so as it became, as it was evening, or when it was evening, like Nina said, when it was evening, Gehtatoe Pehtoeo Awasasa. Now this is perfect. This is already setting us up with some more complex words that we can look up, some verbs, right? Pehtoeo, what does that mean? Pehtoeo. Well, let's go look it up. If we look this up in the dictionary, okay, then we find out that this is a VTA. So it's one of those verbs that involves two persons, two animate things. That one hears someone. That one hears someone. So let's go find this. We've got Beitoyo. Switch back over to our chart. I'm not going to do Utaku Siniak because we just did that with Pipok, so I'll just assume that you got it. Now, the cool thing about when you look up a word in the dictionary, they will give you this, the third person form. They call it the lemma. Okay, you don't need to know that. And there's even like at this conference, I heard people debating the word lemma, and I'm like, I don't care, because it's above my head a little bit. But it really just means the dictionary form. The form that they've chosen to use is the third person form. Beitowo. Okay, this is the third person form, and it's a giveaway because it's got that W on the end. Okay, so if we go look in this chart, we know it's a VTA. Okay, we know it's a VTA, so it's getting into this big scary chart in the top. So now we're going to go find it based on the ending. And Ben has done us a little favor here, and he's highlighted. You can see there are these ones that are highlighted in yellow. Those ones are highlighted in yellow because those are the dictionary form. Those are the ones you're going to find in the dictionary. If you've got Eric Wovengray's dictionaries, those two books, when you look up a word, you're going to find this one. Okay? You're going to find that one. So we know it's Beitowo. So let's grab that. There's that AO right there. And what that means, now I'm going to talk about how to decode this chart. Okay? Remember we talked about directionality? There's the forward direction, or direct they call that, and then there's the inverse. So the blue on this chart, it's kind of blue, purple, I don't know, whatever it is direct. So all of the blue boxes are direct, and all of the orange boxes are inverse. So let's get into that a little bit. And what that means is, remember if we jump back over to our positions, okay, that one, and another one we're going to be talking about here. So we've got that one. If we found this box here, we know that it's direct between this one and this one here. That's how you use these. The pronouns are on the edges of these boxes. And there's 3 sets because there's different ways you can use a verb. These are what they call the independent ones. These ones in the middle are what they call the conjunct. Oh, sorry, that's a J. And these ones over here are what they call the future infinitive. We're not going to get into those just yet. Okay, but that's why there's 3 sets of boxes, because they have different, maybe you'd call them modes or something. But we're primarily interested in this one. And we know it's direct because it's in the blue box. And we have that little cheat sheet up at the top. Direct, inverse, okay? We know it's this person, and we know it's this person's acting on another person because it's a VTA. We know it goes in this direction. So we've got this box. So if we take that AO off the end, we're left with what? We are left with the command form. Okay, and I'll use that highlighter again and make that yellow. So we end up with that part in there is beito, which I don't know if you'd ever say that to anybody. Beito, you're saying like, hear them, hear that person, beito. But the cool thing about this now is we can take this beito, okay, and we can plug it anywhere in the rest of this chart, this VTA chart, anywhere in here, okay? So what if I want to say, that's me down here, I hear you. Okay, I'm running into a rule already, but I did that on purpose. So this is inverse. This is inverse because I'm going from this side, me, that's me, one singular right there, to you, that's you, two singular over there, okay? And it's going this direction, so we know it's going to be this orange box. It's going to be the orange box, and we'll just pick on the... So it's going to start with ge, blank, and then itin, because it's inverse. Okay? Not you to me to you. So let's grab that. Ge and the box, and then itin. But something interesting is going to happen here. We'll do it anyway. Ge, the box, and then itin. And you might know this a little bit already, because whenever you hear somebody say something to you, I love you, I see you, I greet you, it always has that itin. Or another one you might know is you hear a lot is me to all of you. You hear that itinawaw, itinawaw. That's me to all of y'all. Me to all of y'all. Ends up being that itinawaw. Okay? And we'll do an example of that one in a second. But there's something interesting that happens here. So we can put this in here. We take that command form and we can put it in that spot, beto, but we have a problem. If you said kipetoitin, that wouldn't really make sense. Kipetoitin. You'd get funny looks probably from a fluent speaker, right? Because something happens, we call this a boundary. There's a boundary here and there's a boundary here. These are what are known as morphemes. But this short A, W, and I at this boundary, the sounds of these change, okay? So there's a bit of a rule. And actually, if we go back to the chart, I think it's actually there. Oh, no, it's not. This one's not on the chart. So you'll just have to believe me. Whenever you have this, the sound change happens when you have AW meets I at those boundaries. That turns into a long A. And so what we end up with here then is kipetatin. I hear you. Kipetatin. And if I wanted to say all of you, then I can just use the rest of that conjugation. Me to you again. Here's me over here. And I'm interested in interacting with you. So I'm going to use, it's inverse, it's going this way, so I'm going to use this one. But if it's me and all of y'all, then it's going to be this one here. Itinawaw is what we want. Itinawaw. So there's itin. I'll just do it here. Oops. Itinawaw. Itinawaw. If that was confusing, just stick with it. Okay? We're not going to focus on this. We're going to keep going in our story. Once you see this a few times, once you hear it a few times, it'll start to make sense. And again, if this is confusing, don't worry about needing to understand all of this at once. We're just introducing it slowly so it'll start to sink in because there's a lot here. And again, you don't have to learn this way. But if you get this, if you get how this works, it will start to unlock a lot of language for you because you can start, and you can just focus on, oh, I just want to focus on this set right now. I'm just going to work on these six boxes, which would give you kipetoin, kipetatin, kipetoinan, kipetatinan, kipetoinawaw, kipetatinawaw. Okay? Epetoin, epetatin, epetoiak, epetatak. I think that's the way you'd say that. Epetoiek, epetatagok. Okay? Some areas might, I think this one, some areas might say epetatagwao. I think that's a variation. But if you just focus on those, what is there, 6, 12, there's 12 conjugations there. Then all of a sudden that gives you a lot of language, right? because now you can put, now sage. Kisagihin, you love me. Kisagitin, I love you. Kisagianan, okay. Kisagianan, us love you or y'all. Y'all love us. Kisagianan. Kisagiitnan, that'd be the inverse. Us love you or y'all. Kisagihinawao, y'all love me. Kisagitnawao, I love y'all. That's just this box, right? So it looks confusing once you look at it and you're like, what does that mean? But once you start to understand the directionality, right? The directionality of some of the things can be said this way and some of the things can be said this way. And that's why there are so many forms of a word, of those, especially those transitive ones, right? Those transitive verbs. There are so many. And this, I carried this around in my back pocket for about 2 years, just studying the top half of this chart. And you will get it. You don't need to just like learn the whole thing. We all, when we take a class, we kind of start here and we learn these. And then eventually we move over to the VTIs and learn these. And honestly, there's only 16 of each of those. So they're not too bad. These ones still take me a while because there's a couple of different types and whether or not to add the H or not. But this one up top, the verbs that involve two different people, if you don't know them and you're studying them to try and use them in conversational language, it takes a while. And like I said, again, you don't have to do it this way, but if you figure this out, this will start to unlock a lot of language. Things will start to make more sense because you'll be like, oh, he's talking about that person saw them. Oh, I get it. It'll start to make sense. Let's keep going. So we covered this one. So here's another thing that has to happen here. We're just going to talk about that obviate person for 1 second. This is this relationship right here between that person. So this is Giseanu and this is Awasasa. So well, why didn't you just say, oh, so I got to switch my, the relationship between these two. Picked up my iPad, but it didn't change my screen. So this is Giseanu here, and this is Awasisa. And it's important to understand that if we didn't say Awasisa, if we just said Awasis, if we said Giseanu Behtaweo Awasis, it would sound funny because we've specified both of those people as this person. And it would be unclear who heard who. It's sort of like I said, he heard him. And then you would ask me, well, who heard who? What is that? That's not clear to me. Who heard who? Oh, Giseanu Behtaweo Awasisa. We add that on the end because that tells us that it's sort of, you think of it like the Giseanu is like, I think of it as in focus. The person that we're talking about, they're in focus. They're the main part of the focus of the context. And the Awasisa is sort of like supplemental. But what's important to understand is they can trade positions. Just as you go in the story, they will trade positions all the time. That's why when you hear a story like a Wesagetak story, sometimes you hear Wesagetak and sometimes you hear Wesagetakwa, right? Wesagetakwa, because it's changing who's in focus in the story. This is not a class. This is just a study. We're just studying some grammar. So again, if I'm going too fast, if something is not clear, feel free to drop a comment, thoughts, clarifications. If my understanding is lacking and you have something to add to that, please feel free to chime in. Oh, and sorry, I did have a question. Prosea asked, where can we access this? So if you Google to get this chart we were just working on, you can find this if you Google Cree Decoder Ring, and it'll show up right at the top, or it should, on Cree Literacy Network. Summary Paradigm Tables, the Decoder Ring of Cree. This is made by Ben Godden, and there's two versions here. This is the TH one, the Y dialect, and then there's a TH dialect one as well. Mostly the same, but some variation in the way that you say things. Yeah, they're pretty close. So you can find that there. And then this study we're doing right now is recorded, will be on my YouTube, but I've also done another video on this too, if you can go find either of those for review. Mitse to kam ksiua. I want to think about that word for a minute. What does that mean? Mitse mikuapa. So there were lots of lodges, lots of doings. Lots of buildings. Mitse to kamikisiwa. I don't understand that word. Let's go see what it says over here. Oh, they had many tents, many were the lodges. So this is a verb. Super interesting. Yeah, but it's not in the Mitse to kamikan. Yeah, I don't understand the word. I mean, I understand it, but I don't understand why it's like that. Isiwa, because this is actually animate. But I understand lodges to be. So in this case, they're saying this would be the difference between an inanimate verb, mitseto gamgan, and mitseto gamiksu. This would be the actual and the VAI form of that. But it's not in the dictionary for some reason. That's fine. E ate tagoteet. So tagoteo, we can look this up. So as he was arriving, I guess you'd say, right? This comes from tagoteo. So again, VAI. So we can come back to our chart here, and we can go back to our VAI corner of this chart. And again, the dictionary form is going to be this one here, the lemma, tagoteo. But it was e tagotit. It's in this conjunct mode, e tagotit. So it's this one here. That person, e tagotit. And if you're reading a story and you just, almost just by the endings, will narrow it down to what it could be. Like after a while, you start to understand what the words are, but you start to just know, well, this has to be this based on that ending because it only exists in this place. Like if we go back over to the chart quickly, there's only a couple spots where that conjunct T ending happens. One is there. It doesn't even exist in the VAI chart. It doesn't exist in the VII chart. And the T ending would only be, does it even exist in the VTA? I don't think it does. Because in the AO ending, while this is common with Moeo is a VTA, but Sipuiteo is a VAI. They both end in that AO sound, AO. But this doesn't turn into 8 in the conjunct, it turns into at, right? This one here turns into this one here in the conjunct. So if you want to say, as that one ate something, e moat, moeo e moat, right? So I don't even think there is an 8 ending. So that's a giveaway. That's actually a giveaway that's a VAI, e tagotit. Because that's the only place that particular ending that I'm aware of exists in all of the conjugations. So e ate tagote. So as he was arriving, ispatna on a hill, I guess, oasis. Oge yo teo itik. I don't know that word either. A visitor. Oge yo teo. Interesting. Let's go see what the dictionary says that is. That's a noun. Interesting. Cool word. Ota tapeeto teo. Ota tapemitso. So this just puts it in the ta just sort of means like gonna happen, like they're coming here. Ito teo. So this one's easy because These are both just directly in the chart. Again, there's only 2 spots, I think, in the chart where they can have a W ending, and that one's here in the VAI, right? And here has to be AO, so it couldn't be that one. That mitso has to be this one. And then itoteo, well, we know that word means going. Going? Did you say going? Itoteo? But betoteo is like that person's coming here. And they're going to eat here, I guess. Ha, itoteo egote. Biteas, don't know this word. In the center. Huh, interesting. Biteas, or biteask. Interesting. Eitzamateik. So here we are. That yik ending, again, dead giveaway. This is a VII. And it's in the conjunct mode, right? Again, that yik only exists in one place. I'm trying to slide things around. And that yik is going to be, it's this one here. Right? In the conjunct. There's 2 different sets. There's the VAIs can end in N generally, or they can end in W, like sagasteo. What would be another one? Sagasteo, gisagao, stuff like that. So the difference being that we still have yik in both examples, but the ones with N, they sort of retain the N in those conjugations for whatever reason. It's just the way the language works. I didn't realize how much spam you get on a stream, eh? That's wild. Pitageo. Same thing. We're getting a few softballs here, right? Because again, this could, in theory, just based on the ending, be a VTA, but it's not. It's pitageo. They entered, I guess you'd say. Asam nestes. Asam. This is a command, right? Asam. Feed that one. So again, we can look this up. And it's going to be asameo is that dictionary form. They call that a VTA. And then again, let's just go back over and practice this. Let's make a few words out of this just to sort of get familiar with the. So asam. Asam is going to be you to that one. I don't even know if that exists on this chart. I don't even know where it would be. I don't think it is. But here, if we look at these are commands. The ones that don't have any colors, these are commands. So I should clarify that. If I wanted to say, you feed me as a command, asamin. You feed us, all y'all. You feed us, or all y'all feed us. Asamanan. And then all y'all feed me. Asamik. So I can't command myself. There's no inverse for this because I can't command myself to feed you. That doesn't make sense. And then these ones are these are called the delayed imperative, and you do hear them. If you said asami kan, that means like feed me later. Like if I was going to arrive later and I said katagotean asami kan, when I arrive, feed me. But you're saying like feed me at that time, right? Ay kamis kamanki gwe witamuikan tansita wititan. Witamuikan, tell me at that point in time. Tell me later. Witamuikan. But let's take a sum, and let's just pick a few scenarios. Let's make this, this is where interactive. If I want to say, we know that a sum means feed. That's the command form, a sum. Feed that person. So Give me a couple examples of what you might want to say that involves out of here. Like if you want to say, I fed that person, or I fed them, or they fed me. Just drop a comment in somewhere and we'll go find it in the chart. We'll just let that stew for a minute. Just pick one that you would want to say maybe in context or in a story or something like that. And we'll go find it. We'll figure out what are the pronouns involved. What are the pronouns? Where do we find them? And then once we've got that within the chart, how do we figure out what the conjugation for that is? So we can do this both ways, right? Find it in a story and deconstruct it, but then we can start with the pieces. Okay, I want to say, how do I say, I feed you? How do I say, you feed me? How do I say, all of y'all fed all of them, or feed all of them, right? Let's do that one to start, actually. All of y'all. So that's going to be, I'll use red for the pronouns just to make it. So all of y'all, that's going to be the second person plural. And feed all of them. Okay? So we know that a sum is in the middle. So we want to start with the two plural and go to the third person plural. Okay? Two plural to three plural. So we go over here. Again, we're in the big scary chart in the top. And we know, or if we have a sense that the twos are over here and the threes are over here, so it's going to be direct. If we wanted to say they feed y'all, then that's going to be inverse because it goes this way. You don't need to know that, but you just need to go hunting now. All right, let's go find two plural and three plural. So where are the two plurals? There's the two plural there. That's it. The two plural is right there. And then, oh, and I missed talking about this. There's three singular, three plural. See, we're looking for this one here. The reason there's two boxes on the top, okay, is because to pluralize something, you want to combine them both, okay? So let's go through that. Let's actually do this. Let's do both examples. Let's do three singular. And then we'll also do two plural to three plural. So that's what we're going to say. Y'all feed that person. Y'all feed all of them. Okay? So if we start with y'all, and we go back over here and look at these, there are two boxes, one here and one here, and those correspond with the two sets of boxes, one here, one here, one here, one here. So this is the third person singular box, and this is the third person plural box for the direct. This is the third person singular box, and this is the third person plural box for the inverse. And so if I want the third person singular, I only need this box. And so I'm going to grab all of this, just like this. Okay, blank, ow, wow. Just remember that. Okay, blank, ow, wow. Okay, we're going to take our command form, the part here that fits in the box, sum. And in most cases, in most places, if you have a T and an I beside each other, you'll put the T in there. Have an I and an A beside each other, you'll put the T in there. So you wouldn't say, get a sum ow wow. You would say, get the sum ow wow. It just makes it easier to say. I know there are some areas that won't. They'll say, get a sum ow wow. But most of the time, I would hear, get the sum ow wow. That means all of y'all feed that person. Get the sum ow wow. You feed that person, or you fed that person. If I want to say, and let me just fix that. It looks more like a complete word. Get the sum ow wow. That's how you say that. Y'all fed that person. Get the sum ow wow. Okay. If you want to say y'all fed them, all of them, well, this is actually pretty easy if we go back over to our chart, because we're still using y'all, which is right here. And we know that this is the third singular and this is the third plural. When we want the plural in this context, we just add these two boxes together. So for the plural, we're just going to grab this whole chunk. So we've already got the first part. We quite literally just need to add "uk" at the end. And what's fun about this chart is you'll see that in the plural sections, there's a pattern. There's a pattern coming out. "Uk, uk, 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 uk. Ik, ik, uk. These can be different depending on the region. These can be a little bit, there can be a variation with some of these. We'll talk about those in a bit. How are we doing for time? We got about 40 minutes left. So in order to complete this one, again, this column here is our third person singular, and this column here is our third person plural, and we add them together for the plural. The blue boxes are direct, the orange boxes are inverse. This is the third person singular, this column here, and this is the third person plural here, this column here, and we add them together for the plural. Again, the orange is inverse. I hope this is starting to make sense. Because if you get this, you'll unlock this chart. Like I said, I carried this around for about 2.5 years in my back pocket. Every time I wanted to say something, I would pull it out. Oh, I don't know that one. And I would go find it. So let's do this one. We just need to add those together. Or actually, really, we just need to add "uk" on the end, because that's all we're missing for this one. So for this one, we can say "Get the sum awak." Get the sum awak. Y'all fed all of them. Get the sum awak. Does that make sense? Is that? Let's do the inverse. Let's do the same group. This time I want to do that one feeds y'all, because that'll complete the section of the chart we're on right now. That one feeds y'all. Now, I just did something tricky because I'm drawing the arrow this way, but when we go to the chart, again, we're looking for that "to" plural, which exists right here in this corner. But we're going to go all the way over to, remember I showed those columns, 3 plurals over here. That's because the 3 plural column is this column, this one, this one, this one, and this one, right? Singular, plural, singular, plural, singular, plural, singular, plural, singular, plural, singular, plural. By the way, these ones here, you don't add the boxes together. It's because there's patterns in there, but they don't join together nicely. But these ones you do. So we can just pretend. Now we're doing the inverse, okay? Because we started with, remember, 3s to 2p. 3s to 2p, that's inverse. That's going this direction. So now we're using the orange boxes, okay? So now we want ge and this one. This is our third singular column right here. This is our third singular column right here. But we're in this little chunk because we're using 2p, so we need this box and we need this chunk. Ge blank igual. Ge blank igual. This is going to be our third singular. So then let's do that. So ge, we still have a sum. There's that igual. And this is not a high frequency word. I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say this, but you could. Get the sum igual. I wonder if you'd say get the sum igual. Nah, get the sum igual, I think you'd say. Sometimes that I will collapse. Get the sum igual. That one fed y'all or feeds y'all. Now, you know where I'm going with this. All of them feed all of y'all. Well, this is just starting to get easy because we know we get to borrow all of this. We just need to grab one more piece. And you already guessed what that is. It's the uck. Because that 3S, 3P, that's these two boxes. 3S, 3P. If we want plural, we add them together. So this is the chunk we're grabbing. Kit, asam, igual, uck. Kit asam iguawak. Kit asam iguawak. They all fed all of y'all. Does that make sense? I confess, I've never heard any of these words. I can't think of a context where I've ever heard that. Let's do a couple more. I'm going to simplify it. We'll keep the verb, and then we'll get it back to our story. We've still got, it's about half an hour. The comments are like crickets in here. Nobody's saying nothing. So I had somebody specifically ask me for grammar, and I met this family, Camille and Alex. I don't know if his last name is Fire Thunder. They're from South Dakota. They were in Edmonton for a conference a couple weeks ago, for the Nakota conference. And they had 3 little ones. I think the oldest one was 5, and they all spoke Lakota. Like the little ones included, they didn't speak English at all the whole time I was there. And I was like, oh man, this is amazing. So as soon as we sat down for dinner, I'm like, spill the beans. I want to know everything. And he was like, unpopular opinion. He's like, understand the grammar. If you understand the grammar, you unlock the language. He said, understand the grammar and lots of listening and transcribing. And I'm like, yeah, that basically confirms everything that I don't really push grammar because it is unpopular. It's confusing. It's all of these terms and decorators and all of this stuff. It's like, what does that mean? So you know what? Let's just get into it. Let's just get into it. Let's spend some time practicing. I got people sending me messages here, so I'm just okay, I'll get back to that. Let's understand how this works. Because if you understand this one, like let's do a softball here. Let's use the same word. This time I'm gonna simplify it. We're gonna simplify it all the way back to me. No, I want red. Me and that person. Because this is something you can use a lot. Okay. I feed that person. I feed that person. I'm going to start with me. I'm going to go find this one, and I'm going to go find that one on the chart. Because this is me. This is that person. So we know it's in this big scary orange chart up here somewhere. Well, there's me right there. 1S, that's me. And I already know that this column is 3S, and this is 3P. This is also 3S and 3P, but on the inverse. I'm not saying they feed me. I'm saying I feed them. So I'm going to use this chunk here. But it's just the singular. So this is our softball right here. Very easy. Ni blank ow. Couldn't be easier than that. Ni. But most areas will add that T between those two vowel sounds just to make it easier to say. Nitasamao. I feed that one. Nitasamao. Sisigwanapeo says, I agree the grammar's super confusing, but I think learning backwards helps, if that makes sense. We'll do a little bit more story. We're only like 2 paragraphs into the story here. I'm just picking words so we can go find them. We're going to do this again. I think maybe I was saying to my wife, like I do my live streams where we do transcribing on Sundays. We're going to keep doing that. but I want to start doing more streams in the week sometime where we just, this is, if you're learning, this is where, if you have questions about this stuff, just drop them in there, because we will, like I said, side quests are 100% allowed. Questions allowed. If you have questions about the grammar, if you have questions about anything, drop them in the comments and we'll go on that side quest together. But we'll circle back to the grammar, because I think I'm not going to push it. If this doesn't work for you, don't worry about it. So we got this one. Netasamao. Netasamao. I feed that one. Well, how do I say I feed all of them, right? I'm telling a story about my, I was feeding the ducks. So, well, that's me, but there was more than one duck. That's this one, right? More than one duck. So now I got to go find them. Okay, well, I know me is right here, and I'm feeding them, and I know that this is singular and this is plural, and I know for plural I need to add both of those boxes together. Again, I'm throwing some softballs here, but hopefully that will make it easier. Then I get to just borrow everything we've already done here. Oh, it does somehow. Ak. Tasamawak. Right? I feed them. Tasamawak. Now we do need to know that the stress, or the pitch accent, I guess it's called, this is typically ma, sa, ta. Right? There's one syllable here, or syllabic if you want to think of it that way. Right? It's usually the third last. Not always the third last in the way it's spelled, but definitely the third last in the way it's pronounced. Generally is where you will have this little raise in pitch in the way that you say it. Nitasamao. 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 But because we've added one on the ending, we have wa, ma, sa. This is the third last on this one now. Now it's going to be nitasamawak. See how that moved over? That moved over one because we've got one more syllable on the one more syllable on the end. That's just the way the language flows. And again, it's not always the way that you spell it. It's just the way you pronounce it. Because if you can say pimatsuin or pimatisuin, pimatsuin, pimatisuin, it's still on the third last. The pitch accent is on the third last in the way I'm pronouncing it, regardless of how you spell it. Let's do, does this make sense? Sisiguanapeo, is this like, any questions? Let's do two more quick ones. I'm going to burn through these next two because they're really going to be easy. That one feeds me. And then those ones feed me. We're going to do both of those. Easy peasy. Now we know for sure we're talking about inverse now because it's going the other way, because all of the three S's are over here. It's going this way now. So again, if I come back to me, I know that this is 3S and this is 3 plural on the inverse. So I'm going to have this bit and this for singular, okay? This bit for singular. This is almost getting easy. Ne. Need that T-joiner. It does some. And what was our ending again? Ik. Nitasamik. Nitasamik. That one feeds me. Nitasamik. That one fed me. Or that one feeds me. Now what if there's more than one? Right? I'm the one being fed still, but it's going to be multiple. Well, same thing. 3S, 3P, this is the plural column right here. I need to add them together. Okay, 3P, this direction. Orange is this direction. Blue is this direction. Okay? Inverse, direct. So I need to grab both of these. Well, I get to borrow what we did already and just add the ending on, right? ne, da, some, ik. And this is that piece that means them. This means that one to me. This means them to me. Nitasimigwak. Nitasamigwak. Nitasamigwak. Does that make sense? Yeah. Nitasamigwak. That's how this works. We've got just under half an hour. Let's do a little more story. Find another one and keep coming back to our chart and deep diving into where do we find these. If you can learn to use this chart, then you can print it off and carry it in your pocket. I have I don't know, it's around here somewhere. This is the one I got from Ben, actually, right? It's like a laminated copy, and on the back side, because he'll carry a whiteboard marker around so he can write on the back. Right? So I don't carry this. I carry this around on my laptop, but the one I had was folded up on a piece of paper in my pocket. So I could pull it out and look at it and be like, that's the word I want. Asamao. Okay? We've stepped into that tricky territory. Not really tricky. Once you get it, it makes sense. Asamao. Where does this one live? This one's, it's not tricky, but there's no... Where does Asamao live? I'm going to give you a hint. It's right down here. Remember our chart? Okay. We were talking about I fed that one. That was direct. That one fed me. That was inverse. Okay. Y'all fed all of them. They fed all of you, right? Direct and inverse. This one is that unspecified actor. Ow, asamao. Okay? That's this right here. And what that means is they got fed. It's still a transitive verb. Okay? It's a transitive verb, but we're not specifying who's doing the feeding. They were fed. Asamao. You hear those lots. Once you know what they are, itetam. Well, this one's a softball. We know that ending. There's only one spot on the chart where that exists. Unless it's a command. But you only see that in, we're telling a story. So we're talking about other people. But that one, because it's it lives right down here. Itetam. We're talking about that one. He thought thus, I guess you'd say. Bahquis kana. Boy, what would that even be in English? Porridge. I didn't even know that. Porridge. Bahquis kana. Boy. That's really interesting. Utatapemitso itao. There's that, just like asamao. Itao. So that's a dead giveaway that's probably, now there are some transitive VTIs, that end in ow, like gusky tao, apachi tao. There's some of those, but this one, because I know the word, well, let's just go look it up. What does the dictionary say it is? Itao. So it comes from iteo, again, a VTA involving two people, but it's got that unspecified ending. Was said to them. Enitomid. Again, once you know these endings, you hear them all the time. And once you know what they are, once you start to understand them, enitomid. Okay? That IHT ending, it only really happens in one spot. It only really means kind of one thing. And again, back to that unspecified chart, enitomid. It comes from the verb nitomeo. Transitive verbs between two people usually, boy, I can't even think if there are any that don't end in eo. sageheo, naskomeo, nitomeo, big squateo. Like, are there any transitive animate verbs that don't end in eo? I don't even know. I can't think of one anyway. But anyway, so they were invited. E nitomit. Utatape mitso itao. They're gonna eat here. They're gonna come and eat here, they were told. They were invited, I guess you'd say. Let him come over here. Come and eat over here, someone said to him, inviting him, I guess. Oh, there's a cat. Nama esqua mitso. Esqua is like a variation, or I think of it as a variation of tesqua. Esqua. They hadn't eaten yet, I guess you'd say. He had not yet begun to eat. Egua muetse ewi mitsota saimi na gotaga e nitomgut. So this is the same verb as this one, e nitomit. E nitomgut, except it's specific. And again, this specific form only happens in one spot. It only happens in one spot. And, oh, how did that get so tiny? Oh, because my thing went weird. And the spot that it happens, we just find it. It's right there. And we see it's orange, so we know it's inverse. It's going this way. And it's here, so that means it's that other person to this person in the inverse direction. If it was this way, it would be a nitomat, but it's the other way, a nitomgut. Nitomegut or a nitomgut. That I can be silent sometimes. A nitomgut. So again, once you understand, so the next time you run into that, the next time you hear something, a wapamgut, a sagigut, a pigsquatagut, right? You hear that egut. Now you understand that we're talking about that other person did that to that person, right? You start to hear that egotik, egoak, the patterns. So now you get that for free. Next time you hear that, egut, then you'll know, oh, I might not know that word, but I know they're talking about those people to that person, or that person to that person. Egua epitogoit. Ewi mitsut. Segua. Stays. Tapegiweo. So what's this? Then as he went in and was about to eat, let my big brother come back here. And he did. Epitogoit, when he came in, ha, nstese, gausemo. That's that command, right? And we know that's a gausemo is just involving one person, animate, so we would classify that as that VAI. And then again, we can take gausemo and we can put it anywhere because this is the command. We can put it anywhere. It's a VAI, so it falls down here in this corner. We can put it anywhere in one of these depending on who we're trying to say about. E gausemoyan, gausemoyan, e gausemut, gausemoyak, gausemoyak, gausemoyik, gausemotik, gausemoyit. Kipamana, pitsananu. This one's interesting. We'll talk about that for a second. Gigse paiwi pitsik. Gausemo. There's lots of unspecified stuff happening. Pitsananu. Can you say pitsin? What does it say for pitsananu? Pitsananu. Pitsu. Pitsu. I was thinking pitsin. But yeah, pitsu. So to move, I guess. But this is again, if we look at that, We know it's a VAI. I don't know if this one's on the chart, but let's go have a look and see where the unspecified stuff is. No, this one's not on this. It is a VAI, and we can actually, since we're working on the grammar, if we're using this dictionary, we can click through and go down. And if we expand these, you have a few different options. You can show the plain English labels, which is like me, you, that one, someone else, us. I prefer the linguistic labels. They just take up less space. And actually, I'm curious, the Nehioiwan labels, let's go have a look at what the X actor is. No, I can't find it. Oh, it's just awia. Yeah, so they use awia for unspecified. But I prefer these labels because they match the other stuff that I use. Bitsnanu. So it's this unspecified actor, right? They moved camp. Camp was moved, or they moved camp. What does it say over here? As he entered, well now, brother, go to bed. We always move camp early when we move in the morning. Go to bed. And I guess I would have interpreted that as like, Gipa mana. Camp is moved in the morning when camp is moved. It's the way I would have interpreted that. But I guess it's not like nobody's involved, if that makes sense. Gige tiu, again, pretty easy, pretty simple verbs. Must be a VAI. I don't know the word specifically. Let's see if it comes up here. Suddenly it is being slow. That's fine. Let's find something more tricky. So here's the VAI, but this is specifically that wak ending. We know we're talking about somebody, right? Aisinuak iksepa, aisinuak pitsuak. There has to be generally agreement between these. You couldn't say pitsu, aisinuak. Maybe you could. A fluent speaker can do whatever they want. But generally speaking, if you say aisinuak, then you will also say pitsuak, aisinuak, mitsuak, aisinuak, teotewak. There's going to be agreement in the plurality there, right? Pisanenitim. Kutawi tse. We haven't talked about this one. That tse at the end, not tse, tse. Kutawi tse. That's a giveaway that this is a very specific form of a word. And we can find it in our chart. And in fact, it's right there, this one. This last column on these, it's this one on this VAI. It's the third column on the VTI. The third column on the VII. There's a couple of different forms. But on these ones, because there's two directions, it's this third set of columns, again, direct and inverse. And again, third singular, third plural, third singular, third plural. Hope that's starting to make sense. And then for me and you, this is what they call a me and you set down here. So this is your independent mode, this is your conjunct mode, and then this is your, what they call a future, what do they call it? The future indefinite or whatever? I think it's called the indefinite. It means if or when. So that's this column down here. And in most cases, again, patterns. If you know all of these, the conjunct, then these ones are basically the same. You drop the E and you add an I on the end for the most part. This one's different. And that T will turn into a C. The sound of it will turn to T. But if you say, you know, a mitsoyan, mitsoyane, if I eat or when I eat. A mitsoyan, mitsoyane, if you eat. So we're looking at this one here. And the word was gotawe tse. So that tse is a dead giveaway that word is kotaweo, which is to build a fire, I guess. Kotaweo. So if we look at that, Bisane nitim kutawetse, if my nitim is uncle, right? Builds a fire. I don't know this word, bisane. As soon as my uncle builds a fire. Egota go begopayin. I'm going to wake? No, what does that mean? Begopayin. I feel like I should know this word, but I can't think of it. I will wake up. Oh. Itetam. So he's thinking, itetam. We already covered this one. What does it say over here? As soon as my, sister-in-law. Nitim. I was thinking that was something else. Kindles the fire, I shall wake up, he thought. Thought he. Keitayo winseo. Again, there's that AO ending. Can only exist in two places. It's either a VAI or VTA, but we're pretty sure it's a VAI in this case. There's only one person involved. Waitna ngan pan etetak. So there's that tak, again, dead giveaway, that ending. This is a VTI. Because that really only shows up, that tak ending only shows up in pretty much one place. Oh, can't do that. And that's right here. Etetam, etetak. Or if it's more than one, and you hear this a lot, etetakik, that's the etetamwak, etetakik. The two ways you can say that for the third person plural. Just keeping an eye on the time. We're down to about 12 minutes. I'm going to do a little bit more, and then we'll just take the last maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And I don't know if it's worth doing review or if there's any comments or questions at the end. As soon as, I guess that means. Anybody remember what that iik? Wase na guaniik. Ewagigse papisane wasena guaniik. O piua o he piesi sa. Aisinuak gatetak. So it's interesting. Gigse pa, I'm going to say as soon as it is light. I don't know this word, but wase, usually like I'm thinking wasaskote paik, which is like the lightning or something. Let's just look this up. Wase, I'm thinking it's like as soon as it's light. And again, it's in that obviate. Oh, as soon as it appears brighter, or as soon as it's dawn, I guess it would be. But again, it's in that yik. It's in that because it would be dawn as experienced by the person we're talking about in the story, right? Oh piwa oh he piesi sa. Oh piu, like they'll get up, they'll raise up, they'll go up. What does the English say? That's such an interesting word. Then in the morning, promptly with the first gleam of dawn, up flew those birds, which he had taken for people. Huh. The interpretations are so interesting. Like the way you say something. Like I know, like ohpin, ohpina, ohpiwa, ohpiu. And it's birds, obviously. So, I mean, a bird, how does a bird lift itself up? Yeah. Ka aisinuak ka tetak. Sagago ne kapu. Kapu. I don't know this word. I half read the English when we were there, but they were standing in the snow. Oh, that one. It had to be one person because it would be wak for plural, right? So it would have to be one person. Again, that W ending, that's the part that means. So if you said this for me, you could say, ne sagago ne kapuin. Kapawin. Ne sagago ne kapawin. Yeah. Te. We nigo neo makayak. I don't know what that means. The filthy brutes. What is this this word? No. I don't know. Interesting. Egua post taiwin seo. Again, eo can only exist in two spots. And in this case, we haven't really mentioned anybody, so it's probably a VAI. It's involving one person. So then he put on his clothes, I guess. Post taiwin seo. This one, it's actually Iwinsu post. Yeah. That's just a way that it's like an older variation of the spelling. It's the W that makes that woo sound. Postayuwinsu. Postayuwinsu. And that's actually a really cool word because it comes from Ayuinsa or Ayuinis. I never heard Ayuinis like an article of clothing. Ayuinsa, clothes. But if you say post and that A, postayuinse, put your clothes on, you can do that with the hat, postastotne, postsigane. I don't know how you do that for shoes. Postaskissene. I think you'd say. And same with that gate. We saw that too. That was back here. Gataskissene. Take your shoes off. Take a noun and turn it into a verb. It was back there somewhere. All right, we just got like 7 minutes left. I'm going to just leave it at that for now. We've covered a lot of ground tonight. My intention here was, well, twofold. I wanted to do just a study stream. I was going to do this tomorrow night, but turns out we're going to be over the mountain tomorrow. So I thought I would do a stream tonight, and I figured out how this stuff will be recorded on YouTube. So you can always go back and review if you want. We're going to do some more of these. I think we'll do the same thing. More study. And the next one, we might dive into the chart a bit more. We'll do a quick review, but then we'll just grab some words and we'll start working through the chart. How do you say this? How do you say that? And it's best if you're studying, don't try to memorize the whole thing at once. Just pick one section, right? Just pick one chunk. I want to remember me to that one. I just want to remember that one, me to them. Okay, now I want to remember them to me. Just work on one at a time, and then once you've got those down, oh, okay. And literally when I would do these, I used to go, the ones I struggled with for the longest time were these three here, ak, at, and I would say that in my head when I was trying to say, as, you know, like you saw them, ewapamat, in my head I would go, ak, at, to try and remember which was which, ak, at, right? The it, isk, and igut, I could remember those ones easy enough. They weren't hard for me. Like ewapmisk, as that one sees you, or when that one sees you. Ewapmgut, as that one sees that, as that other one sees that one, right? Ewapamit. Those ones are easy for me to remember, but these ones, ak, at, and I would say that in my head. And every once in a while, like it probably for about the last 2 years, I've been working on those three to just get them straight in my head. So it just takes a while. Because those ones, when you hear a story, unless somebody's telling a story about themselves, you don't, I don't hear those ones a lot. A lot of the stories that I'm working on usually are about, like these ones are usually involving 2/3 persons because they're more like traditional stories, I guess you'd say. So I'm going to leave it at that tonight. I hope that was helpful. And like I said, you can catch the recording on YouTube afterwards. Thanks to everybody who popped into the stream tonight. I'm never too worried if there's. It's always actually kind of nice if there's just a few of us in here. I've done a live stream one time when there was 100 people and it was chaos. It was just like lots of endless comments. But a nice small group. I always say, if you are a language learner even, or you're thinking about making material, all of the materials that we make, every language learner today is a future language resource. So, so even if it's just for a small group of people, that's really good. There's an opportunity for lots of conversation or questions. It's really good as a learner if you get the opportunity to hang out with other learners, especially if they're more advanced than you. And that's actually something we were talking about recently. It's important not to forget to continue. I know it's intimidating to hang out with people who may have more language than you do, but you will get a lot of language. We don't always get the most out of fluent speakers, especially if we don't have language, but we'll get lots out of hanging out with other learners, especially if they have more language than we do, because they'll fast track your language. They'll just like help you through some of those hard things more quickly. So, yeah, I'm just going to open it up. We got about three minutes. Not that there's a hard limit on this, but I smell supper. So if there's any last minute questions, Cyrus, there's no requirement for comment or whatever. If you just want to lurk and watch the live, that's 100% fine. I'm not self-conscious about any of this stuff anymore. I'm fully aware that I will get a random comment or message out of the blue about a YouTube video I did 3 years ago and think, wow, people still watch that stuff. But it fits into my view of language revitalization today, in that everything we do in language revitalization is a language resource. I'm always telling people, if you're doing Zoom videos, or Zoom meetings or any of that kind of stuff and just hanging out, record it. Like, just let everybody know at the beginning, like, if everybody's comfortable, we're going to record this. We're going to make it available in this space. Maybe YouTube, maybe just a private Facebook group, whatever that looks like. But everything that we make nowadays is good resources, because one of the most challenging things in language learning is getting past that beginner stage into to a place of comprehension, to a place of even just a basic degree of fluency. And which I don't really feel. I can speak to a lot of things, but I still have to listen to language a lot, and I still feel lots of times like I'm studying these stories that we're recording with Wes Finday, and there's lots of stuff he talks about where I understand the language and I know what he's saying. Then he'll switch gears and he'll start talking about a different level of language, or a different level. He'll start talking more conceptually instead of about stories, and then I start to get lost. I start to struggle a lot more. So a couple more minutes before we shut the streams down. If there's any last questions, salutations, let me know where you're tuning in from. Every once in a while we get somebody who's like, yeah, I'm in Texas or something. I'm in where was it even? Houston or something. Somebody tuned in one night. So yeah, no problem. Thanks for stopping in, Lynn. Yeah, miasin kakio itagosiniek. Ipegiogoek. Always say that. I'm grateful for everybody coming to visit tonight. We got one tuned in from is it Spacey from Frog Lake? Yeah, and I'll just leave the stream on again for just another minute in case there's any last questions about any of this. Last minute questions or comments? Oh, goodness. Somebody's trying to get a hold of me like a fury. No. Yep. One more minute for any last minute questions, comments. And I may be, Sunday for sure. I may do one more stream before then. I want to do twice a week, but I'm trying to just fit streaming into my schedule a bit more. Maybe if that's an extra transcribing night. I've been thinking a lot about grammar after what Alex said, and so we might spend a bit more time on that too. Might spend some time going through the materials that Godniasik and Ben Godden and Maggie are kicking out, because there's some good stuff there too. All right, well, we'll leave it at that tonight. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and Sunday night for sure, but don't be surprised if we end up with another stream on maybe Thursday or something. So, okay, kakio kitam skat now, wow. Pag-usay mo na iwi miyo skan siyik. Ay iwi miyo kausimo yik, iwi miyo ay meat so yik if you're having supper. And tapwe mitni miya sinoma. Ay mamu yak anuts. Egwa kananaskum tenawa miste. Hey, I'll see you all on the next one. Everybody have a good night.